All right, guys, I wanted to have another quick video here to look once more at National Pastime. This time we're going to talk about number 14, which if you've been watching my MP3 videos, you'll know is almost always a walk unless it's not. That's the way it always is in these games. It is this unless it's not. We're going to look at the 14 in National Pastime. In National Pastime, of course, there are no pitcher ratings. There's nothing. You can see from these pictures, hopefully this is big enough that there's no symbols or letters or anything by them. There's nothing to prevent the pitchers from giving up the walk. If you roll a 14, it's always a walk 100% of the time. Just like if you roll a 13, it's always a strikeout 100% of the time. So this is what we talked about before, the 13s. 14s are not quite as far off as the 13s, but there's a problem. These 7 players present a problem because each of these 7 hitters, they're all pitchers, by the way, Erwin Brame, Benjamin Cantwell, Robert Smith, Peter Donahue, Leroy Mahaffey, Charles Rem, and William Walker. Each of these guys had the grand total of 0 walks in 1930. If you add all of their walks together, you get 0. Each of them individually had 0. That's right, there's no walks for any of these guys, and yet each one of these received exactly 114. There is a pattern to these, right? So the left-handed hitting Erwin Brame got a 14 on 36. The rest of these guys all got a 14 on 35. Right? This shows that it is likely that the 14 was built in to some sort of model card that Clifford Van Beek was using, and that he was throwing that in depending upon some sort of circumstance. Now, exactly what that is not entirely clear. But it's pretty clear that there is a pattern that is different between left-handed and right-handed hitters. I'm looking through here to see if I put in a link to that post, and apparently I did not. We know that there are patterns in National Pastime. Yes, I missed the link here, so we're going to have to go back and find this here. Let's see if we can find this here for you. Apologies as you look at the mess that is my posts. And let's see. See, this is what happened. I didn't create a link. This is what happens when you create too many of these posts. And here it is. This is it. Morris, Chatham, and Rothrock, which came out just a couple days before the filming of this video. This is where we can see that there is an interesting sample card in National Pastime. Interesting here. I thought that I put a copy of these patterns here, and I did. It's over here at the bottom. That's the reason why, and I didn't put a link to the post, so I'll fix that here right after I'm done filming this. So there are 2 different sample cards. Really, there's 3 because there are guys who are switch hitters, not that many. There's a sample card for left-handed batters and a sample card for right-handed batters, and they are different. They're very, very different. The numbers are all different, almost all. 45 tends to be 14, a lot of these cards. But other than that, these numbers are just different. They're just completely different. The pattern's totally different, which leads me to believe that Clifford Van Beek had 1 card for left-handed batters and 1 for right. How do we come up with this? Easy. What we did is we put all of the numbers together, and then we looked and counted how many times does this play result number, like 27, appear here on 12. Right? 15 times. 27 appears 0 times on almost every other number, right? So that gives you an idea. This is for the guys hitting both left and right, and that's kind of where it ends up being. You can look at this for all the numbers in total. It's a little bit messier, but when you divide it between left and right-handed batters, you see patterns that are very, very clear, right? So number 30, result number 30 appears a whopping 167 times on 21 for right-handed batters. Remember, there's only 288, I believe, cards in the set. It also appears number 30, 117 times on play result number 54. Now, why is this interesting? Because we can look through this and we can see where the numbers generally end up and come up with this sort of sample card. And the sample card that we come up with here pretty closely resembles these cards for both right-handed and left-handed hitters, right? So for a left-handed hitter, 36 tends to be 14. In fact, if we want to look up here at left-handed hitters, 14 shows up on 36 78 times out of how many? 94 left-handed batters. 78 times you're getting a 14 on 36, which is pretty common. Right? Right-handed batters have, in theory, a 14 on 35, although it doesn't show up here. Well, let's go here and take a look at our chart. 14, and we go over to 35. I didn't write it down because there's only 57 occurrences of 14 on 35. But it's quite common, especially among pitchers. That's the thing that we've learned here. Now, it is possible that we are incorrect. So that's what we're talking about here. It's possible that we're wrong. So the leader in National Pastime 14s received is Max Bishop, and you would expect it to be Max Bishop if you look at how many walks he got. He got 128 in 1930 out of 441 at bats, right? And so we're saying he probably needs like around 8 14s in this card, because we take those, add them together, do 148 divided by the walks plus at bats and so on. He wound up with 6 14s in his card, which is more than anybody else in the set. So he got 1 on 13, 1 on 25, 31, 36, 45, and 64. Right? Nobody had more 14s than Max Bishop. And so despite the fact that he doesn't have the 8 that we calculate, it's significant that he has more than anybody else, because he should have more than anybody else, which says that maybe Clifford Van Beek knew something about Max Bishop. Babe Ruth is kind of a counterexample. So Ruth would be an obvious player to put a whole bunch of, give a whole bunch of walks to. He walked 136 times in 1930, plus he's Babe Ruth. And you know, if you watch any kind of baseball in that era, that people would rather watch Babe Ruth than let him hit a home run. He had 581 at-bats and then 136 walks. We calculate that we should have probably about 7 14s or so, but he only gets 3. He hits 1 on 36, 1 on 45, and where is your other one? He has a third one here somewhere. 42, there it is the other one. And so when you look at these cards now side by side, interestingly enough, since they're both left-handed hitters, you can also see the pattern, right? It's not always there, but there are bits of it that are there. So 12 is 27, 32 is 34, 52 is 25. There are a couple of places where it's different, but you can see all of these numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 dice roll numbers have the same results on both cards, right? Despite the fact that Bishop doesn't have a 1 and Babe Ruth has 3 1s because he's the Sultan of SWAT. Interesting stuff. And those results are consistent with that model left-handed card. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 dice rolls that deviate from the pattern for at least one of these players. Only 2 of them have deviations for both, right? And among the other ones, you have 1, 2, 3 different results for Bishop and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for Ruth. Now, Ruth has more 13s. He has 1, 2, 3 extra 13s, but he has weird stuff as well. 16 on 31, for example, or 40 on 13 instead of a 14. Dice roll number 40 is one of the great mysteries of National Pastime. We're going to be digging into that a little bit later, see what we can find out. I don't know what we're going to find out. I have no idea. When it comes to this and what exactly is going on, I don't know. But I'm pretty sure that Clifford Van Beek used a pattern. In fact, if I'm going to speculate here a little bit, my guess is that Clifford Van Beek probably decided to have a very generic pattern for all hitters of left and right-handed batting ability, and then would change maybe a number here or a number there. What we really need to look at is what the pattern looks like, what we would expect, and who doesn't follow the pattern. And not only if we can figure out why, but if there's anything about those players that would indicate, or if they're off the pattern by like only 1 or only 2 different results. So that's the big question, right? Which is, are we seeing that everybody misses the pattern by like 1 result, which is possible? Are we seeing that there are some players who are way off and other players that are not way off, and on and on? That's the sort of thing that we're trying to look into here. Now, it's kind of exciting, and this is the reason why I like talking about this, because to my knowledge, nobody has ever looked into it this way, right? There are people who've looked into National Pastime and who've tried to figure it out, but most of these have been people who are interested in making their own cards and who are trying to figure out a way to make National Pastime a little more realistic, add in a pitching system different from J. Richard Seitz's system, and do things like that. I don't know of anybody who's tried to deconstruct the set like this and who's tried to think hard about this and go slow and figure out how Van Beek did what he did when he did it, and what he may have known and what he might not have known. I have said this before, and I still believe it. I think that Clifford Van Beek was an absolute genius the way that he put this game together, despite the fact that there are clearly parts that come from other games before and that he may not have created, reinvented the wheel and stuff. This game is complex, and this game has a lot of stuff in it that you wouldn't expect. And I think it's pretty cool. It's almost like a nice toy. And when you think you got it figured out, when you think you've got the puzzle figured out, then he throws in another little thing to sort of knock you off and kind of make you think, oh, how come it's like this? How come it's like that? So it's pretty cool to sit down and mess around with, and we could take a lot of time doing this. Funny thing is that when I started writing about this, I thought, oh, we'll write about National Pastime like for 2 or 3 different blog posts. That'll be it. I never thought that I would end up writing dozens of them, and that's probably what's going to end up happening because it's of endless fascination and because a lot of people like it. A lot of people like to read this and like to learn more about it. So we'll talk about this more. Hope you enjoy this one. I'll talk with you later. Bye.